pilgrim's path. Ah, the pilgrim's path. Ah, the pilgrim's path. Ah, the pilgrim's path. There are many different homes you have during a lifetime. Some places you can never go back except in memory, but one place remains in your heart and mind, a place where it all started, a place of origin, the place of birth, the first home, the pilgrimage back to where I started. It has been a solid 10 years since I've been back to Northamptonshire, the county of my birth. Not for any particular reason. My dad had a cottage in Cornwall in Bodmin Moor for a fair few years before he sold it, and my grandparents had both died, and I got busy into living my life here in Cornwall. Starting frost, melting spring, wait for the tide bell to ring. The saints march over the tor. Across the sea, the pilgrim's path through the trees, the saints march over the tor. The road begins beneath your feet, but curls like smoke through time and peat. A bell tolls deep in Par's drowned sand, ghost thistle growing in your hand. Buzzards speak in tongues of air, the stones remember how you stare. A crown lies rusted in the fen, you wear its weight and walk again. The sky is cracked with silver thread, each step unknots the life you've led. Through tor and tomb and whispering tree, you chase the shape you're meant to be. No end in sight, no start in stone, just you, the path, the ache alone. The journey north was one of slow liberation and excitement, like a bird slowly unfolding its wings. The dark, icy morning gave way to bright January sunshine and some beautiful hills up in North Somerset. My plan was to stop off at the city of Worcester on the way to my dad's little village in Northamptonshire, but the incredible view of the Malvern Hills on the way changed my mind, and I headed towards them. The River Severn had burst its banks and flooded the surrounding fields, and in the distance the Malverns looked like a series of mountains surrounded by a sea. I parked up in Great Malvern and walked through a small park, enjoying the view of the high hills in front and the park. The town itself was lovely, an inspiration to C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien and Edward Elgar. I admired the buildings and drank from the earth goddess-shaped fresh spring water fountain. A Brumby woman asked me what it tasted like. I said it was beautiful. The Malverns are some of the oldest hills in the country, sticking out like a spine on the landscape. The one side of the hill is almost totally flat. Just a flying visit this time, but I will return to explore the hills.
Took my
I've heard my girlfriend talk before about how nice a place Worcester is, so it was part of my plan to visit on the way further north to break up the journey. I parked for free as the River Severn had recently receded from flood in a riverside car park, so all the parking ticket machines had been taken away as they were damaged by the flooding. Worcester is a medieval university city, and the people I spoke to were friendly. The city is full of historic buildings, mostly with a recognisable Tudor style. I made my way to the cathedral. There were some beautiful memorials and statues in the cathedral, and one to Elgar. Also, there was a Christmas tree festival in a cloister full of eccentric Christmas tree designs, and it made the walk around surreal and enjoyable. What I didn't expect to see was King John's tomb, black marble with his nose chipped off. He cut off his nose to spite his face, as the famous saying goes. One of England's Plantagenet kings, and regarded as a so-called bad king due to losing the Angevin Empire and losing the crown jewels in the Wash Estuary mud, and of course known as the king in Robin Hood's story, and of course known for being the king under whose reign Magna Carta happened. You can visit the tombs where the original Anglo-Saxon church was, also where the shrine to St Wulfstan once was. On the walk back, I followed the flooded park beside the cathedral. The water had flooded the entire park, and swans and cygnets were floating where there was once recently grass and pavement. The drive to my dad's village was filled with new roads and industrial units that were not there 10 years ago, and you could see the massive works in progress for the insane waste of public money and resources that is HS2, carving a tunnel of mud and earthworks through once pristine countryside.
Look at these
He arrived when the sky forgot its color, where the clouds held breath and the stones began to hum. His feet were thorns, his cloak a map of grief and dreams, stitched by stars, washed by all the rains that ever fell. Ahead a city, columns spiraled like thoughts unspoken, domes suspended mid-blessing, gardens grow in time in the shape of song. The bells did not ring, they remember, and in their silence he felt the symmetry of all things. Every wound was a window, every step a sacred yes. He did not kneel, the gates open like eyes in a dream. And the light was made of everyone he had ever loved and lost and never known. My dad managed to get a day off, so we decided to explore the city of Oxford, home city to one of my most influential bands growing up, Radiohead. I played a few gigs back in Oxford back in 2005 and 2006 as a bass player for a friend's band and as a solo act promoting the Giant Shadow EP, though I never explored the city itself. It was such a cold day in the city, even though it was sunny, and to see a high street with no boarded up shops or any urban decay, coming from Cornwall, one of the poorest counties in the country, to see the flourishing city was such a shocking difference. Oxford seemed like a multicultural city, but the high street itself wasn't my sort of place, though I liked the clock tower and the Anglo-Saxon tower. We trekked through the city to find the old castle and prison, which is now a hotel. It reminded me of how Bodmin Jail had been turned into a hotel. It had a similar feel. We didn't go in as we couldn't book it due to a herd of school children on a day trip coming in at 2 p.m. We wandered off just as the horde headed towards the entrance. We walked along the River Thames, where there was some social housing and estates with sandbags to stop the water from coming in as the flooding was that bad. Then turn, follow the river back into Welf. Such a strange thing for me. We enjoyed the beauty of Christ Church College, shining with its Cotswold-looking stone in the winter sun. We asked for tickets at the tourist information, and again the magic hour was 2 p.m. for tourism, due to a funeral taking place. The college also doubles up as the city cathedral. The hallway stairs and the Great Hall were impressive. The ceiling architecture design reminded me of Cambridge King's College Chapel, and the huge paintings of influential people from the last 300 years or so. The Great Hall still acts as a dining hall for students, and the menu itself was quite reasonably priced. The cathedral itself was very beautiful, with some credible marble work and statues, and also a memorial to John Wesley, founder of Methodism, who my dad tells me we are distantly related to. The whole place, even though it was lovely, it felt quite stuffy, and I can see why the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley ran away from such a place. I loved all the green man carvings and the shrine to St. Fridswide, the Anglo-Saxon saint from which the whole city sprung. We ventured into the museum near the building called the Mocks. It had some interesting artefacts, the twin-tailed mermaid carving, which always reminds me of my old band Melusina, and the brief section on Lewis Carroll, which stood out to me as one of his notebooks had a 9-pointed star, which looked to me like a magic symbol. Perhaps he dabbled? I bought my girlfriend a walk-in tour map of all the places in Oxford, which inspired Alice in Wonderland, and I wish I had more time to go and see the treacle well. A segment of Old Street, where there was once a piggery and butchery, was made of animal vertebrae. It caught my eye. The man running the museum was so appreciative of visitors, and such a nice chap. I was glad to support such a place by donating. The day ended in a massive traffic jam trying to leave the city on a park and ride bus. But it also ended spending time with my dad at his home, drinking whiskey with him and playing with his dog Maya. There is a city, a holy city, where we can shine. There is a power, a divine power we can find. Life is too precious a gift, we cannot take it for granted. The soul's grace, a solemn place, left enchanted. Left enchanted. Left enchanted. Left enchanted. Rocky Valley, I saw you smile, and you embraced me with your heart for a while. Life is too precious again, cannot take it for granted. Soul's grace, a solemn place, left enchanted. Left enchanted. Left enchanted. Left enchanted. We may not have all the answers to our prayers, but we have each other. We may not have all the answers to our prayers, Talking to my dad about various places we had been when me and my brother were children inspired me to explore the rural side of the county. This day it was overcast and cold and damp, but I wanted to see the Rushton Triangular Lodge for a few years, so I headed off in that direction. The Rushton Triangular Lodge is a folly built in the late 16th century, built in sacred geometry to represent the Trinity to express the builder's faith. He was a Catholic, imprisoned for his faith for refusing to become a Protestant. It is full of incredible Gothic-style architecture, built in limestone to represent the number 33. The drive there was beautiful. The gentle rolling countryside and the red kite birds of prey flying overhead, and the limestone villages and towns looked gorgeous in their sandy-looking stone and thatched roofs. Driving through Rothwell village and along the wall of the Ruston Hall estate, upon finding the lodge, I parked up to discover it was shut for winter, with the gate padlocked and no way to climb over the wall, and the only true glimpse I could get was by holding my camera above my head and taking a picture. Oh well, on to Rockingham Castle. Again, closed for winter. I couldn't decide what to do. I was either going to drive up to the historic home of the Northamptonshire poet John Clare, Helpston, or drive to the city of Peterborough to see the incredible-looking cathedral. Instead, I did neither, as I was going to run out of daylight, so I went for a stomp around the town of Market Harborough. I looked at the medieval grammar school and the church of St. Dionysius. How curious to have a Christian saint named after the Greek god of wine. The church itself gave me a strange and uncomfortable feeling, as did the very affluent town. I soon realised why. It was used as a prison for thousands of men during the English Civil War. Maybe some residual energies here. I realised I was near the site of the concluding battle of the English Civil War, Naseby. It reminded me of a bike ride we took as a family to the site of the battle, where we rode down a new dual carriageway before it was open to the public. And also when I used to work labouring for my granddad's building firm Bliss of Builders, almost every summer for a couple of weeks when I was at school in Portsmouth. And the family firm did a building job in Market Harborough, and something I remember from back then, when my dad, uncle and granddad found a human skull down an old well on the site they were working on, which they kept for years as a kind of mascot for the Bliss of Builders, which they called Yorick. I drove back and stopped at Pitsford Reservoir, Blixworth Country Park, trying to chase a memory of when I swam here as a child and cut my foot. It was very grey overhead and the light fading, so I decided to go home after a brief walk. I followed the ghost of a road through the rain, past red kite shadows and a thatched refrain, where limestone sings in the voice of saints, and every hedge wears time like paint. A folly of triangles, sacred and stern, rose from the earth where the faithful burn. Locked by winter, it turned me away, yet I glimpsed its soul through branches grey. Rockingham slumbered behind its gates, and Peterborough dreamt in distant states. I drifted instead through a market town, where whispers of war still rattle the ground. Saint Dionysius, wine-soaked name, stood cloaked in a past no light can tame. I felt the cold of 1,000 cells beneath the bells that silence tells. I thought of Clare and the poet's breath, of civil strife and a dance with death, of a skull in a well, my grandfather's prize, grinning beneath Northampton skies. A child once bled on Pitsford's shore, where I searched for the boy I'd been before. The wind bore stories across the dam of builders, rebels, and who I am. So many places have remembered, souls of stone and days dismembered, but I still walk beneath low skies. The pilgrim in me never dies. Stick, stock, stone, as King of England I shall be known. This ancient stone circle is the easternmost in the country and made of strange dark limestone standing stones, full of holes and pits and character. The whole circle is like a circular row of old fangs. The king's men, this circle is known, after a witch turned a would-be king into stone and his men and knights. The ambience here is beautiful, and the stones are vibrant and reactive to touch. There is a tree full of prayer offerings, and over the road is the King's Stone and a view of the Cotswold. The stone is an interesting shape. I headed off towards Wiltshire to spend time with my friend Matt, stopping off for some lunch at the Cotswold town of Burton-on-the-Water. I remember this place as a child with my grandparents. The buildings are made from beautiful Cotswold stone, and a river runs through the town with some little stone bridges over it. Soldiers stand in a circle, all turned to limestone. They wait orders from an empty throne. The winters come and go, so does the rain and snow. The voice of the wind is all they know. It is fate day the stone will melt like ice, and freedom, freedom for our lives, and freedom, freedom for our lives, and freedom, freedom for our lives, and freedom, freedom for our After arriving in Wilton, Matt took me to Stanton Drew, the second largest stone circle in the country. It was a great drive across the county into Somerset, and the 3 stone circles were well worth the visit. I could feel the presence of a ley line, so I thought that perhaps this was also on the Michael Mary ley line. The stones themselves are huge, and to think that in the centre of the large circle was a concentric ring of wooden posts, almost as if they were designed by how it would look from the air. The smaller circle near the larger one was my favourite of the 3. The stones here were very peaceful and gave me a strong vibration, almost like the feeling of water, and some interesting shapes as well. I've heard that people found this place very creepy, but for me it was the exact opposite. I found this place very calming. We explored the small church and its grotesque water drainage faces. The church has a hushed feel with a grape-themed stained glass window, the churchyard and cemetery with the ornate lichen-covered angels and headstones. One interesting one with the Eye of Providence on it, almost Masonic or Egyptian looking. We had a pint in the Druid's Arms and went to the town of Frome with its independent shops. The place reminded me very much of the town of Totnes. We went back to Wilton and explored its 3 pubs for conversation and revelry. surround me. The bride and groom have become stones forever. 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 I journeyed back, feeling refreshed and renewed. I went back to Northamptonshire to see family and hoping to reunite with some old feelings and memories. I feel blessed for the joys of my life and for finding myself the man I am. The last 10 years have been one of expanding consciousness and opening to new experiences. To see the past written in the same stone, but to be a completely different person, and to know that I have grown as a person and that I can forgive the past and move forward with the strength I have for my love, for my family, and for my music. A journey that comes full circle, a pilgrimage from home to home. Your faith in me keeps me sane. I felt my sanity when I keep my love true for you, like a temple inside my heart. All the thorns never kept us apart.